We are at the 2018 Top Contributor Party for FreeCodeCamp. Super excited to be here with everybody, and I'm going to be interviewing a lot of these top contributors to the FreeCodeCamp code base and community and all of our infrastructure. Wow, that worked. I didn't actually have to say shh. This is pretty much a who's who of people who have made the FreeCodeCamp community what it is today. FreeCodeCamp is a global community of developers who are helping people in their communities learn to code. We have a ton of free open source learning materials, a ton of Creative Commons learning material. We have a ton of videos on YouTube. We have a ton of articles on Medium. We have a ton of podcast episodes. And we have an incredible curriculum that the entire community has come together and sculpted over the past 3.5 years. And everything is completely free and open source. FreeCodeCamp itself is now a 501c3 nonprofit, which means that we're tax exempt, and any donations to FreeCodeCamp are tax deductible. If you happen to have like an employee matching thing at your office or something, keep that in mind. Or if you just happen to have like a killer year and you don't want your tax liabilities to be too big. So, but we're doing a lot of exciting things with the donations from our community. We're powering servers that right now, if I were to look, there'd probably be 400 or 500 people using the core learning platform, even Saturday night. We have millions of people using FreeCodeCamp every month all around the world. We have a ton of people in India. We have a ton of people in Nigeria, Bangladesh. China has more than 100,000 active campers. And then here in the US, of course, Europe, Latin America, Central America, all over the world, Africa, even Australia, where I was last month, and Australians are the most chilled people, I have to say. So we have a lot of people from all around the world here tonight, and I am going to try to talk to every single one of you live on stream if you're cool with it, and just talk a little bit about how you got involved in FreeCodeCamp, what you're interested in doing in the coming year, what your own personal goals are for your career, and of course, why you became part of this community. What encouraged you to take your scarce free time and turn around and invest it into an open source project aimed at helping increase technology literacy. I'm very excited to talk with all of you. Just to give you a quick recap on how FreeCodeCamp is doing, we have recently launched the new curriculum about 2 months ago, and it's been very popular so far. There are a lot of ways we can continue to improve it. It's never going to be finished. It's always going to be a work in progress. We have tons of study groups around the world, many of whom the leadership of which is here today, and we're going to talk about the future of those study groups and ways that we can further expand them and make it easier for people to start study groups and participate in study groups, and make it easier for people to find study groups. And we're thinking about ways we can take the hundreds of people that are using FreeCodeCamp at any given moment and raise awareness if there's a study group in their city right there on freeCodeCamp.org, just in time. Like, hey, a study group is starting in 6 hours. Would you like to RSVP? And also take the study groups and make them more granular. So you don't have to go, you don't have to commute 30 minutes to get to a study group after work. There's a neighborhood study group, and then there's like a city level study group that meets once a week or once a month. So we'll have a much more granular, spread out, distributed community where people are learning to code in smaller groups and coming together for bigger events. We're working on hackathon tools to make it easier for us to have big online hackathons where everybody can join in and participate wherever they are in the world. Our values are, of course, being completely free, being convenient for busy people who have kids, who have full-time jobs, who are going to school full-time, who have elderly parents they're taking care of, all kinds of people who are all kinds of busy. And we want to be a resource that acknowledges it's 2018, people are busier than ever. There's no sign of people being less busy. in the near future. We want to make it so it's convenient for all of you to sit down and get in 30 minutes of coding a day, an hour of coding a day, maybe just do a long weekend where you build up an app over the course of several hours. We want to be here for you all so you can continue to expand your skills throughout your career as you progress and as you transition from field to field and as you get more and more technical over time. Thank you all for everything you're doing. It's amazing. We were looking at the analytics for FreeCodeCamp recently, and FreeCodeCamp is, according to SimilarWeb, which aggregates all the different places, we're getting something like 15 million visits a month. And a lot of that is to Medium, a lot of that is to the core curriculum, to the FreeCodeCamp guide. We've got quite a few people who've contributed to the guide here. And a vast majority of the things to do in the FreeCodeCamp community are powered by wonderful volunteers like you all, wonderful contributors. So I just want to have another big round of applause for everybody here. And I also want to have a round of applause for all the FreeCodeCamp contributors who couldn't fly out to New York City. I totally understand it's expensive to fly out and get a hotel in New York City. And all the contributors all the 2018 top contributors who are going to be at the Dublin event next month and the Hong Kong event in November.
People were asking when is the Python starting?
I'm here with Mark Troshinsky, and Mark is the community organizer for FreeCodeCamp Oslo, which, tell me a little bit about FreeCodeCamp Oslo and its history.
Okay, so we have an amazing group of people and also other admins, very active in Oslo. We figured that Mondays are the less competitive date along the week with other events which are happening more on the end of the week and during weekends.
Awesome, and have very many people within the community over time, have any of them gotten jobs as developers?
Yeah, so we have like quite small successes in our group. So besides learning purposes of community as ours, there are also network effect, right? So some people in our community already work in some companies, and we know about some job offers within these companies or some internships that are appear. So we can connect people between companies and between themselves to try to collaborate. And when you are meeting people, a lot of people are quite shy and delaying their job application, right? So when we see them on our meetups every week, we are pushing them to actually start applying and pushing them to those people who are actually in industry and make that connection as soon as possible.
All right, cheers. Cheers. Megan, you've been involved in FreeCodeCamp here in New York City for quite a while. Could you describe your involvement so far?
Yeah. So when I first joined FreeCodeCamp, it was in part because I wanted to learn how to code. I had been doing a little bit of coding in Visual Basics already and wanted to do something that was a little bit more relevant for the 2000s. And I also wanted to get to know some new people because I had just moved to New York City. So it seemed like a good way to get some learning as well as get to meet some people. So I started going to the FreeCodeCamp meetups and working through the curriculum. It really helps keep me honest, keep me going through, because every time I go to the meetups, everybody wants to check on you and see how far have you gotten. And if you're still doing the same project you were doing 2 weeks ago, it feels a little bad to say that to other people. So it's a good way to make sure that I was making progress and as well as get help from other people. And then as I got more and more confident, also helped to go and to talk to other people who are working through the same challenges and then have to explain the process to them as well and really solidify that knowledge. So that's how I got sort of first involved in the meetups. I was just going as a student. And then after a few months, Victoria and Mike were looking for somebody to run another meetup on weekends. So I volunteered for that and started running a Saturday meetup for the last 2 years. But attendance is sort of mixed because people have things to do on Saturdays. So now I'm just kind of doing like pop-up meetups. So whenever I have some time, I'll say, I'm going to be at this place in 2 hours if anybody else wants to meet up there. And then we can just code together on whatever we're working on that day.
Field. You're currently working as a data analyst, you said, and a lot of people are kind of confused about the difference between doing data analysis and doing actual data science. How would you describe the difference between the two fields as far as you understand them?
So in my experience, I think data science is a little bit more on the back end, doing a lot of calculations, math, and writing up algorithms to try to segment an audience or something along those lines. And data analysis is, here's all this data you have in front of us, now tell us what this means to a human person. And then in my personal experience, it's been more like a business analysis. So if you're looking at stats for different marketing campaigns, how do you relatively compare how well each one did and whether you should continue that campaign?
I'm here with a very special contributor. I'm going to pull your name up just so everybody can see your Twitter handle and everything. I'm doing this manually with this amazing tool that Matthew, the AV extraordinaire, created. Ethan Arrowwood, welcome to the live stream. And you hail from Boston. You are a student there, an undergraduate student.
Yes, so I'm an intern at Microsoft in Cambridge. I am on the commercial software engineering team, and it's an incredible opportunity and a very unique internship. So rather than working on a specific product or a specific service that Microsoft offers, such as Azure or Office, I work in this like almost a hackathon kind of way where we work with some of the top Azure clients, and if they have any sort of data sets they want analyzed or worked on, or they have problems they want solutions to, or new applications, Microsoft will assemble a crew of developers from the CSE team, and we go out and we build something really cool with them for a week or 2 weeks, and then when we're all done, we hand it off to them, we show them how to use it, we provide documentation, and a lot of what we do right gets open sourced, or at least we talk about it, we write blog posts about it. I'm based in Cambridge, like I said, but I actually was here in New York this past week at the New York office working on a very incredible project, doing some Docker and Kubernetes, as well as some React code. And it's been the best internship I could have ever asked for.
You have created a number of videos for the FreeCodeCamp YouTube channel, which have done very well, and lots of people have benefited from them and said positive things about them. You've also written some articles, the Medium publication, and now you're embarking on the biggest adventure yet in your FreeCodeCamp contributorship. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I can't wait. All right, so my biggest adventure yet is the Python curriculum. It has been it's been an idea since the beginning, but it became more into a fruition about a year ago. We tried, it kind of fizzled out, but we made some great, fundamental, foundational progress. And then this year, due to, I forget who it was, but there was some incredible Python curriculum that was uploaded on the YouTube channel. And because of the attention from that, we realized the FreeCodeCamp community really wants Python and wants a in-browser experience just like they currently have for JavaScript and all the other web tech things. So right now, I am working on the Learn platform, a fork of Learn, and making it so it can support Python in the browser, just like you would how you currently run. Write the code, run the tests, get feedback, and all of that, and earn a certification through a step-by-step curriculum. So with all of that said, I am working hard on getting that foundation set. And then once that foundation is set, we're going to take a lot of the aspects of what's currently there for the JavaScript side of things, and we're going to try to convert that to Python. And then once we convert those JavaScript fundamentals and challenges over to Python, we will have the first iteration of a Python curriculum, and then from that, there's some very future-looking ideas, like doing things like more intensive data science, machine learning, AI, and a lot of the things that a lot of people are really interested in but don't even know where to start. Thank you.
Cheers. And next, we have a very special guest coming from Carlsbad, California. She is a longtime editor of FreeCodeCamp's Medium publication, Tony. Tony, you have probably edited, how many articles do you guess that you may have edited over time?
Maybe 15,000? It seems that way.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of articles that Tony has edited. I'm going to go ahead and pop her information here up on the screen for everybody to check her out. Tony, tell me a little bit about Medium and what drew you to the platform.
Well, when I first began at FreeCodeCamp, I was advised to get the Medium publication. And I found that all of the articles taught me something. And those that didn't, it was okay, I still learned. So when I was given the opportunity to edit for some of my favorite authors, I just had to go for it. And I'm glad I did, because I'm always learning.
Every article that gets published in FreeCodeCamp is edited by somebody like Tony, who cares about quality and style and wants to make sure that the article is in the best possible light. What's your workflow like when you sit down to edit? Like, what's your environment like? Where do you edit? Just tell us a little bit about, like, okay, I'm going to go edit now. What happens when you make that decision?
First, I have to find an article I like. I need to be interested in it. That's not really true. Sometimes Abby will say, hey, I need someone to do this immediately, and if it looks like I can handle it. I like the challenge of English as a second language, because my skill set's in grammar. And so that makes me feel good about it. But I really like the ones that just reach out and say, hey, isn't this something you're interested in? You're doing a React thing. Don't you want to read about React? So I'll decide on the article for whatever reason. And of course, we have to put our avatar on it to let everybody else know. And so once I grab it, I try to finish within 24 hours. Because I think it's important. The author is waiting for this, But also because if I'm interested enough to call on it, I need to go through it. So the main thing I look for is the grammar itself, the tenses, whether it happened yesterday or will happen in the future, basic typos, and links. Links are really important to me. So I'll check every link in the article to make sure it goes to where the author says it's going to. And I'll also make sure that JavaScript is spelled with a capital J and a capital S.
That is one that, like, JavaScript with, like, oh, and also GitHub, right? Everybody spells it G-I-T, uppercase G-I-T, H-U-B, or no uppercase at all, right?
Right, that's right. It has to be spelled correctly. Node.js, I'm still kind of confused about, so.
Yeah, I generally do just uppercase N-O-D-E .js. But some people will do Node uppercase J, uppercase S. I think AngularJS, that's actually the proper way to do it, is AngularJS. Whereas most of the libraries like React.js, you just do a lowercase js at the end.
That's sort of the rule I follow too. So after that, I hand it over to Abby, who's our final editor, and hopefully she'll say, yeah, this is great, we publish it, without fixing too many things.
All right, I'm here with Jennifer Bland. Going to put your information up on screen for everybody's benefit. I am so thrilled that you made it out from Atlanta. We are so graced by your presence. So many people here have learned so much from you over the past year and a half that you've been contributing, at least a year. I don't remember exactly when you and I first talked, but your videos, your articles, people constantly cite them as being instrumental in their efforts to get jobs and to learn more about programming and just to stay motivated.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here, excited to be part of this amazing group of people. I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. I used to be a Lotus Notes programmer, So when I tell people that, I always ask people, raise your hand if you've ever used Lotus Notes ever. A lot of people raise their hands, and then I'm like, raise your hand if your company still uses Lotus Notes. Nobody does. And that explains why I actually got out of programming many, many years ago. And I started working on an internet marketing business on the side, and it grew. And I retired at the age of 51. And I was retired for about a year and a half. And one day I walked into Barnes & Noble, picked up a book on JavaScript programming on the clearance rack, spent a month working through it, learning it, and then it was like, stay unemployed, passion for programming. And that passion for programming won out, and I decided to become unretired, and go back into work, and did a coding boot camp that is so prevalent today. And after my coding boot camp, I graduated, got a job working at CNN in Atlanta. And that's when I started working with freeCodeCamp, because you can only learn so much in 3 months in a coding boot camp. And I wanted to greatly improve my coding skills. And so I literally, in 6 months, when you had the original curriculum, went through and did every one of the certificates. Got to work on one of the nonprofit organizations for crimes against women, and that was a great experience for doing that. And now what I'd like to do is be able to give back and contribute to others.
You've spent a lot of time and energy specifically helping people with the somewhat jarring and unpredictable job application process. And I think one of the things that surprises people the most when they go out and apply for jobs is just that they have to apply for a lot of jobs, and and the skills you employ in a job interview are very different from what you would employ when you're actually doing the job, due to the way that the job application process has evolved. Can you talk a little bit about the things that you think are, if you had just a few high-level tips for people when they're applying for jobs?
Absolutely. The first tip that I would give people, even if you have some of the skill sets they list in a job description, but not all of them, apply. You don't need to have all of them. Apply. Every job that I've had since I came out of a coding boot camp, I didn't have 100% of the skill sets, but I still got the job. Number two would be, even if you don't think that you have the skill set, still apply, and then get your foot in the door and talk to somebody. And if you get a rejection from an interview, write them back and say something like, I understand why you rejected me, but I think you might want to reconsider because I can do this. And if you show that initiative, that drive, that motivation, a lot of companies will take a second chance and look at you from that perspective. But the other thing is, I would encourage people to also go out and start distinguishing themselves from others. Because like my coding boot camp, we had 20 people in my class, 21 people in my class, 21 people out interviewing for jobs. We all have the exact same skills. We went through the same 3-month trading camp. The people that were writing articles or doing things above and beyond that, and they could put that on their resume, were the first people to get hired out of that coding boot camp. So it's your future, it's your career. You can take control of it and be able to do something on the side like that, where like the live streaming, learning how to program, I make mistakes. Do live streaming and people will reach out to you. Write an article about something. People will reach out to you. I've had people that have come up to me in meetings and at conferences and just say, I just want to shake your hand. I follow you on Twitter. I read your stuff. And I'm like, I don't know who these people are, but they know who I am because of what I've done. So those are the recommendations that I would give to people.
That's some great advice. Jennifer, about 15% of the people in the freeCodeCamp community that use freeCodeCamp's learning platform and are transitioning into developer jobs are 45 and older. You're someone who, in her 50s, learned an entirely new additional skill set Granted, you already knew Lotus Notes programming and things like that, but I imagine you had to learn a lot of new stuff too. What would be some advice for people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, who are planning to transition, who may feel discouraged by the perception in many cases that it's harder for people to get into tech if they're doing it as a second or third career?
That's a very good question, because I did attend a coding boot camp when I was 51. I actually turned 52 in the middle of that 3-month coding boot camp. I would encourage everybody to do it. You're never too old to start to learn to get into tech. And a lot of people that are older are discouraged because they're like, I'm too old, I don't know this. But here's my take on that for somebody that's older. You've got decades of life experiences, business experiences that people in their 20s or 30s aren't going to have for 20 or 30 years from now. And even if you are learning to program, you're going to have business experience that you can apply to any project that you're working on in a company. And that is invaluable to any company to have, because if you're thinking about coming out with a new product or a new app or something like that, you're going to be able to provide input and direction because of that experience that nobody else has, and that because of that, you're going to end up producing a better product, a better quality app, something like that. And it's just become better because of that experience that you're going to be able to offer up to potential employers.
Thank you again, Jennifer.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Stuart Taylor, coming to us from Ballycastle. Stuart has been a prolific contributor to FreeCodeCamp. If you've used the FreeCodeCamp curriculum in the past 2 months, it's running on the Learn application that Stuart led the creation of. Stuart has re-architected FreeCodeCamp's learning platform completely to be a static application and to interact with an API. And it's extremely fast. It's all React. It's a single page app. It'll lazy load challenges if they haven't already been loaded when you're using it. But as a result, it's faster than ever. It's smoother than ever. Stuart also created the FreeCodeCamp guide, which is an incredibly important part of FreeCodeCamp. It's a layperson accessible version of like the Mozilla Developer Network would be a good way to describe it. And we have 4,000 plus articles there on all range of topics, C++, SQL, of course JavaScript, and little articles on pretty much every single challenge on the FreeCodeCamp curriculum, many of which are stubs, and we'd welcome your help fleshing those stubs out so that people can have like kind of a corresponding hint with spoilers and things like that in case they get stuck on a challenge. But Stuart has been building all these things. He's been doing so much exciting stuff to help us like simplify the DevOps flow, improve site reliability, you name it. That's Stuart and his recent contributions to FreeCodeCamp. Stuart now works full-time for FreeCodeCamp. He is the senior most developer on our team at this point. He touches pretty much every aspect of FreeCodeCamp. He even has production access to the database in case he wants to pull a GitLab and wipe out a day's worth of data. I'm just kidding. If you haven't worked for GitLab, we love your postmortem on that, GitLab friends. So I've been talking a lot about Stuart. I'm going to let Stuart tell you a little bit about his background and how he came to be a developer.
All right, hi, how you doing? So I'd say my working life started out, I was in the military. I was in there for 8 years. Once that finished, I started work for a telecoms company building fiber optic networks. So I built the internet around where I live. It's only a small country of 1.8 million people. Got everyone fast internet, and I wound up being a stay-at-home dad. And in that time I thought, well, my wife, she had a business and she needed a website. So we went to Squarespace, and just used their website builder, built our website. It was fantastic, worked great, until we decided to change the header image on the front page. Now, originally there was a picture of a woman. My wife is an aesthetics business. So the original image was a woman on the left-hand side, and we had the business name and a call to action button on the right-hand side. But we got some new images, and the image we wanted on the header was the woman was on the right-hand side. And we didn't want the title and the call to action button over her face, so we wanted to move it across to the other side. So I rang Squarespace and said, hey, look, how can I get the site title and this little button over to the other side of the page? And the person on the phone said, look, you just can't do it. It's not possible. So I thought, that doesn't sound quite right. So I went on the internet and I Googled around and I thought, well, how can I move a button to the other side of a page on a website? And found a little Stack Overflow thing and typed in some CSS. Didn't know what that was. Typed it in and it worked. I went, all right, well, that was pretty cool. I wonder what else I can do. Can I get this? So if you scroll down the page, there's another image that comes in. Well, can I get that to slide in? You know, like all the other cool websites out there. No clue how to do it. I said, how do I make an image slide in from the side of the page in a website? Stack Overflow, something about jQuery, copy and paste this code. All right, it worked, brilliant. Wonder what else I can do. So I went searching around and found some courses on like Codecademy and all that, and worked through a few of them. Didn't quite like too much of it. Somehow found FreeCodeCamp. I started working through their curriculum. I thought, yeah, this works for me, and this is really easy. It was HTML stuff. I've seen this before. I'll bash that out. Brilliant. Right, JavaScript. Is that like jQuery? I don't know. We'll carry on going, and so it got to the point where I was comfortable with what I was doing, and I thought, well, this FreeCodeCamp, they give back to the community as a whole. I was wondering, how can I help them? And that's where I found GitHub and went looking through all the issues, and I found an issue where there was a diagram it was describing some sort of class name on a Bootstrap button, and there was a typo on the image. And the issue was to change the image. So I thought, would it be better if it was just code? If you just have a button on the screen and have a snippet of what that code is for the button. And I managed to get that implemented, and after a bit of to and fro, we got a pull request opened, and I got it merged, and it was the greatest feeling in the world. Like somebody sort of verified my ability to code something. You know, so like somebody had said, like, yeah, this is good enough for FreeCodeCamp, and it was accepted. It was pushed live, and it was just amazing. So, all right, well, what else can I do? And that sort of pattern went on from, what else can I do? How do I do that? Right, that's how I've managed to do it. All right, somebody said it's good enough. So what else can I do? That sort of snowballed effectively to where I was implementing features in React. I mean, like 6 months before that was happening, I didn't know what React was. I was getting features implemented, and I was fixing bugs, and it turns out then that somebody wanted to hire me to do something I was doing for a hobby, and of course I said, yeah, all right. And then here I am today, knocking code out all over the place, extending the reach of FreeCodeCamp, making it easier for people to get there and start learning the way I did.
Bill doesn't need much of an introduction. If you've read the FreeCodeCamp Medium publication, you've almost certainly seen him on there. He is prolific. He's done quite a few podcast episodes as well, and he's just an extremely experienced, knowledgeable developer. Been coding for more than 20 years, done high-profile projects for lots of different corporations and government agencies around Canada. Bill, welcome.
Thank you so much. And no pressure. That's a heck of an introduction. Thanks, Quincy.
Bill, you're somebody whom I look up to as a mentor. I've learned so many software engineering best practices from you. What are some areas of software engineering that you would say are the most interesting for you, that you really want to drill down and continue to specialize in as your career progresses?
So one of the things that I come across a lot is the notion, so just for background, for the sake of background, and I'm sorry, I'm going to talk for a second now. I never have a problem talking. So what I do is I'm a freelance consultant. And so oftentimes I airdrop into an organization when most of their apps are like 7 to 10 to more years old, and they've got so much technical debt that the engineering team, the dev team, is spending most of their time, you know, dealing with that technical debt. Like 80–90% of the resources are being spent on that. And the business side of the house, or the clients in there, are really frustrated because they can't get much value out of this dev team. So they're paying all this money for all these engineers, and they're not really getting much out of it because the engineers are really busy, you know, living with the hell that they've created for themselves, right? And there are some really common things that I see from client to client to client that contribute to that, around how those apps were built in the first place, and how they were, you know, basically it's a problem of architecture. And so that's an area that I'm, you know, as I get more and more experience, I think that's a really key, vital thing. And I don't think that, you know, I don't know that that's the first thing you're going to learn as a pro. If you're coming to FreeCodeCamp and you know you haven't written a lick of JavaScript, that's probably not the first thing you should focus on. But as people come into organizations and they're you know getting their first job, or they're in their first year, these are the kinds of things that I want to figure out how to help people learn and understand. And so it really comes down to like how you architect your application, and one of the most common things is the tight coupling of business logic, integration logic, and third-party dependencies. So you've got some framework that's like, you know, some framework or library that's like the hot thing of the moment, and then you've got some integration of your dependencies, and you've got all your business logic, and it's one kind of ball of mud that's all really tightly coupled together. So I see that over and over and over and over and over again. And then what happens is, you know, fast forward several years, that whatever framework or library it was is like no longer the hotness, and in fact it's virtually abandoned and full of security holes. The business logic that you have in there is not well documented, no one understands it, no one knows what to do with it, and nobody wants to touch the thing because they're like, well, if we touch this, we break like the universe, and so we don't know what to do. And so trying to teach people how to tackle and solve those problems is what I'm becoming more and more interested in. And I have, I think, a few ways into it, but I still haven't like fully wrapped my mind around it. Sorry, that's like a super long, detailed answer to like my question.
Yeah, and you have a newsletter, Dev Mastery, that often delves into a lot of these more advanced, I would say, considerations in architecture decisions and how to prevent the kind of toxic technical debt as opposed to the more manageable technical debt, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to be like debt-free or technical debt-free, but if you think about an organization, like if you kind of zoom out and think about like, okay, they're pouring money, they're investing money into like their dev team, and less of that money is going to like generating new value because it's all being spent on like dealing with the cruft of the past. That's a bad scenario, right? So I have this newsletter that you can get from devmastery.com that I send out as often as I can when I have time. And these are some of the types of things that I like to tackle. So that, and then, you know, just articles that I find interesting, topics that I find interesting that I think would be helpful to others at pretty much at all levels, I think. But people in the feedback that I get is people in the first sort of 5 years of their career, from like 0 to 5 years, tends to be sort of the sweet spot for the stuff that I put out. You know, again, if it's like, if you've written your first line of code yesterday, it might not be for you yet, but soon, it'll be for you soon. And then, you know, if you just got your first job, for sure, I'm gonna hit you with stuff that you need to start thinking about. And so, yeah, so that's been pretty cool.
Awesome. So Raphael has been a major contributor to the FreeCodeCamp Wiki, which was the precursor to the FreeCodeCamp Guide. If you go to guide.freecodecamp.org, there's a good chance that some of the articles you'll read there were authored by none other than Raphael originally. Raphael, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from the Dominican Republic. came here in 2005, looking for software engineer career, but my translations weren't that good, so I went for computer science, which was the closest. And from there, I finished school, I started applying for jobs, you know, a lot of emails, interviews, and nothing happening, so I decided I will go and study something else. And I started doing, let me check Python or some programming language, see. There were a lot of jobs looking for those skills. And checking different languages, I ended up with JavaScript. And I said, this is my language. I can use it on the front end, I can use it on the back end. Seems like if I learn this, I'll be good anywhere I go. So I started studying that. I discovered FreeCodeCamp. I say, bootcamp seems to be what everybody's doing to learn fast, get a job, and this is what I need. Mind you, at the time, my son was very young, like 3. So I'm still living with my family. I have a kid. I finished school. I'm trying to get a job soon, and FreeCodeCamp was the place I said, I'm gonna do this. This looks promising, I'm gonna do it. And I started working on the challenges. And because I have bad memory, I don't trust my own memory, I decided, let me take notes, but let me take good notes, not like I did back in high school.
Right, so you essentially took your notes on all the challenges, and that formed the basis of the wiki. And I remember approaching you 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and you had these elaborate notes with your solutions and everything on all of these FreeCodeCamp challenges, and we use that as the basis for the wiki. Hey man, it's been real. So Joe hails from Norfolk, Virginia, where he has been leading the FreeCodeCamp study group.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think it was 2015 when you originally made the call. When I first found FreeCodeCamp, it was probably in, I think you put out the call in like October or November of 2015. I was, when I found FreeCodeCamp, it was like July of 2015, and I was broke. I had been a salesman for a startup, and I lost my job doing that, and I wasn't making very good money at that anyway, so I was a janitor at night, and so I had it being broke. I was making about $800 a month at that point. Wow. And I just had said, I really want to learn how to code. I'm tired of just kind of, all my programming friends were traveling and they're having good lives and their social media feeds made them look very happy, and I was not. So one night, you know, everybody had told me I needed to learn JavaScript, so I typed in cheap JavaScript resource or cheap JavaScript coding camp or something like that, because all the boot camps at the time were costing 10, 15 grand, and I didn't have that. And I found FreeCodeCamp. And so it was about 2 in the morning, as is my wont, because I don't sleep very much. And I said, oh, and so I learned HTML in a night. And I said, there's something to this. And I became really passionate about it because I was learning something for free. I realized I was on a path that was going to do well. And all I had to do was put in the time. I didn't have the brain power, but kind of like lifting weights or doing anything else, you just got to put in the time, you got to put in the work. And so when the call came out for us to start up like a local meetup, I was like, yes, we need to do this. And there was one already in Virginia Beach, which is a city right next to Norfolk, but nobody was going to it. And I said, well, I have a lot of coding friends. I can ask them to be speakers. I'm sure they would want to contribute. Open source was kind of a new idea to me. Didn't quite know what it was. It's like, so how do you make money on this? How do you make a living at doing this? And what I didn't realize is that as you build a community, as you build a reputation, and as you help others, that follows suit. So this was my way of a newbie coder, not knowing how to teach, still contributing and giving people who are just like me content that was going to be good and useful for them if they wanted to continue down that path. So
this is Victoria Kariolik?
Kariolik, you got it right.
All right, Kariolik, and she is actually the woman who created the FreeCodeCamp NYC Facebook group. Back in the day, there was a day when there was not a New York City group, like one of the most populous cities in the world, right? So Victoria, thank you so much for joining us here. Tell us a little bit about your history with FreeCodeCamp.
Well, when I initially went into FreeCodeCamp, I was looking for JavaScript help. I had just left a job, I was doing freelancing, and while everybody was okay with HTML and CSS, they wanted to have JavaScript. And while I was familiar with copy, paste, use, I wanted to know how it worked. I found FreeCodeCamp and started doing the challenges. One of the challenges that popped up was, hey, if there's not a FB group on for FreeCodeCamp, why don't you make it? I'm like, okay, let's check. Then we had a group, because I created that. As people started joining, they were saying, let's all meet up. Let's all meet up. I'm like, okay, well, it's good. We had a couple people who have recently moved, or had recently moved at that time, wanted to meet up, but nobody actually wanted to make the meetup. So what ended up happening was I eventually got a couple of volunteers to come together to be leaders, and we put together an idea for a coffee and code, which we had run across on the FreeCodeCamp group that Quincy was running at the time. Is it still running? I'm not even sure. I'm so sorry. But we had a great thing, coffee and code, meet and greet, make it a short thing, meet everybody. We put that together, and at each of those meetings, it kind of grew and grew and grew. And we ended up meeting some people like Megan, like Mike, who you'll probably see later, who ended up becoming our new leaders and have been holding the fort together for the last 3 years, basically. Every so often we get together and try to do something else. Like I tried to have a leader summit, but then and that kind of fell through. So I'd like to actually get more leaders at some point. So if you're out there and you want to do something in New York City, talk to me. You got my information, come talk to me. Because I want you to be a leader so that we can have one group a day studying every day of the week as long as we can, okay? Come on in.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Mike, tell us a little bit about your experience venturing into software development so far.
Oh, wow, software development. Well, the thing is that it sort of was a passion since childhood. Part of it, anyway. Not web development, but software development and programming. So I've kind of cheated. I didn't start from ground zero. I started at probably when I was like 12, writing C++ code and tinkering around with that. I had no idea that was going to bring me anywhere in life. That was literally just a hobby. People play with trains. I play with programs. Then, way after many years later, I was sitting in New York after traveling a while, and I didn't have a job, I didn't have anything to do, and I randomly stumbled upon a meetup group, which was run by Victoria for FreeCodeCamp, and I found the curriculum, and I really liked how it was structured, just like 1, 2, 3 from web developer, whatever, because I couldn't find, before this website, I really could not find any concise resources. I mean, there was stuff, you know, Code Academy, whatever. There was things that are available, but they were kind of disjointed, or they were in the form of just like, here's a tutorial and then you're done. Here it was like 1, 2, 3 non-profit projects, all of that, and it felt like exactly what I was looking for that I couldn't find before. So
what would be the single, like if you had a single thing that you could give as advice for people who want to get into freelancing, who've been working through the FreeCodeCamp curriculum, or have been just building projects on their own for a while and really want to start making some money as a freelancer, what would be your single best advice for them?
You are the expert. Chances are your client knows a lot less than you do about what he's asking you to do. This is why he's hiring you. So you are the expert. And in that role, this is a people position almost. It's your job to convince the client that you can do what's best for them. And I guess I want to say, like they say in a joke, they're more afraid of you than you are of them. So that's, you don't need to be ashamed, you don't need to be afraid. Whatever you think you don't know, and we all struggle with this all the time, we all struggle with the so-called imposter syndrome. They know a lot less, and they're coming to you for advice, and your job is to give them that advice. If you're trying to get into freelancing, just do it. Just start now. Start small. Don't worry about, even if you put an ad out there and the first person you get is just not the kind of client you would want. I mean, there are different circumstances. Keep trying and just grab that first one. After that first one, that first assignment, whether it's just do this one page for, you don't want to name actual money figures, but just do this one page for not very much money. Just do it. This is when you get your first kind of grasp of the skills that you possess. You realize what you can do, what you can do well. So.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so I'm here with two amazing people, Johnny Bizzle and Manish Giri. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for flying out from your respective cities. First, tell us a little bit about yourself, Johnny.
Hi, everyone. I'm Johnny Bizzle. I was a C#, VB.NET developer for 7 years with a knowledge of SQL. What I found was working on web forms and quite old technology, and I really wanted to learn new things like Node and MongoDB. And one of the guys I was working with recommended FreeCodeCamp, so I thought, yeah, I'll give it a try, and that was about 2 and a bit years ago, and I'm still plodding along through the massive course, but don't let that put you off. It's very good. There's lots in there. So the goal is to upskill, basically, with new technologies and get more relevant, up-to-date work. And along the ride, I've spent a lot of time on the forum and the chat rooms helping out new beginners, which has also aided my learning process. So it's been great, and the course has improved over the years, and I've made lots of friends. I encourage people to network and pair program and meet other developers, because it's difficult to motivate yourself doing stuff just purely on yourself. So yeah, any more questions?
Yeah, I got a ton of questions. First, let's hear from Manish.
Yeah, Manish.
Thank you so much for joining us, Manish.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. My name is Manish. I am a grad student in UC, University of Cincinnati in Ohio. I did my engineering from India in computer science, and after that, I decided to get a higher degree in computer science. So I joined UC. Since then, it's been a good journey. I've started getting into more into software development, starting with Java, and then recently I came across. I decided to get into JavaScript because what's more important for me is to build something and to see it happening right in front of me. That's where JavaScript is more powerful than Java, because you don't need a lot of things to set it up. You can do it immediately with JavaScript. Just open your browser, write your code, and you're done. So that's how I got into JavaScript, and that's how I got into FreeCodeCamp, actually, because when I was learning JavaScript, there were just tutorials everywhere. You read, and there's no coding exercises or challenges. That's where FreeCodeCamp was helpful, because I saw there were a series of code challenges. You learn, you write, you see your code. If it doesn't pass, you ask for help, and that's how you learn. And I've been with FreeCodeCamp for about 2 years now, 2-3 years now. It's been a pretty good journey so far.
You're pretty good at helping other people.
Yeah, I used to hang around in the help chat rooms. Me and there was one more camper called Stephen James. I mean, he's a legend in the chat rooms. So it was fun hanging around there. And yeah, I hope to continue more in this journey.
And I'm hoping that some of the people watching this right now will contribute to the community, and will make the list of very elite, capable people who are helping drive this community forward and helping set the course for so many people who want to become developers and who want to become more technical and break into tech. So thank you both, gentlemen, and thank you everybody for watching these interviews. I think we're going to do a quick closing. I didn't get a chance to interview everybody. I think I was interviewing people for like 3 hours straight. I am so thrilled that everybody came, and freeCodeCamp is early days. We are rapidly growing in terms of people in the community, the amount of things out there that we're creating for other people to learn from, the amount of rockstar developers and teachers that are coming through freeCodeCamp. So we want to absolutely continue to facilitate as many people as possible who want to learn to code, because my firm belief is that just like you had to learn to read when PowerPoint type slides and things like that in the 90s if you wanted to continue to work as a knowledge worker, now you need to learn to code. And regardless of how your job may seem like, oh, I don't necessarily see where coding would be directly applicable to this, I think it will be sooner or later, because what we're seeing is the expectations are just getting higher and higher for your understanding of technology to be able to take these mainframes that we carry around in our pockets and put them to work for us, because most of the work in society today is done not by humans but by robots. And there's a very small category of people who are telling those robots what to do, but we want everybody to be able to tell those robots what to do. We want to have everybody empowered with the rapidly exploding computational power that is falling in price every year, that we can all put to work, so that everybody is, a Tony Stark, like superhuman who can just command the world around them. And we'll get there very soon. And so I'm optimistic that by helping more people become comfortable with technology and learn how to code and learn how to work with databases and use all these tools at our disposal, we'll be able to expedite the arrival of the singularity, like a post-scarcity society where everybody's just super enriched and everybody is able to live lives of leisure and lives of mind. So we're going to absolutely get there, and everybody in this room is helping us get there faster. So thank you. Thank you. And for everybody who's watching this, again, I hope some of these amazing people have inspired you to get involved in the developer community and to contribute to open source and to turn around and teach all the things that you're learning, and to be utterly voracious and relentless in your personal development.